how have you enjoyed the week so far? How has it been for you?
It's been really good. I've seen lots of inspiring films and met lots of friendly, interesting people.
Is it your first time here at Youki?
I came here last year as well.
You had a film, I think.
Yes.
What was the film last year? Because I think someone mentioned it to me. It was about ants.
Yes. The film last year, it was kind of an adventure film about a piece of an instrument that goes missing, and then the team of players in a band have to go find the missing piece, and on the way they encounter some ants, which are played by me.
So it was part live action, or it was full live action film?
It was a mix of animation techniques and some live action as well, kind of collaged everything together. So there was like drawings and clay and paper and footage, and I wanted to put like everything at once.
Wow, that's really cool. So how do you make a choice on when to use live action, when to use animation, certain techniques? How does that work for you?
I started by making a storyboard so I would know the entire story, and then I wanted to have the freedom to just change techniques whenever I got bored of one, because I knew it was going to be a long project. And in the past, when I had chosen to do only drawing or only clay, I ended up getting so frustrated and bored with the medium by the end that I just wish I had done something else. And so I thought, if I set it up this way, then I can just like have a solid story and change the look whenever I want to without it losing the plot.
Wow. I imagine that being really difficult. Suddenly, I mean, when you have like a kind of storyline and trying to like adapting the story to the medium or the medium to the story, how did that change in any way, like the storyline?
It helped me come up with some ideas to think about the materials I wanted to use, because different materials kind of lend themselves to different actions. And so if something is going to be morphing, clay is nice to use. One of the characters, I wanted it to have like a real object as its head and then a drawn body. And so I used a walnut for the head because it like fits under the camera well, and you can turn it and kind of animate it and then add on the body. So that kind of helped me like think of ideas, just deciding what materials would be fun to work with. Yeah.
Wow. That sounds really cool. But did you have to like change the setup, obviously, of the camera each time, like whenever you were shooting a different kind of material, I guess?
All of the shooting, I used like a downward facing camera. And so when I was doing stop motion, I would just lay the object flat and then like turn it as needed. Yeah.
Okay, so you did not always change the whole set. You changed the materials as you went along.
Yes.
Okay. The film that we saw today, Catherine in Venice, I love that. I think everyone like really responded really well to it in the audience, because it has such a great sense of humor, and it's very quick and very, I don't know, just has a great dynamic and a great flow. Can you talk a bit about like how did it come about, the film?
Well, I was in a documentary making class, and in order to practice using the sound equipment that we had to use in the class, we needed to do a practice interview with somebody who we were comfortable with. And so I did this practice interview with my friend and was just asking her questions. And this story came out as her response to something I asked, and I liked it a lot more than any of the like actual work that I did for the documentary class. So I thought, I will save this and use it sometime in the future. And then when it was her birthday, I was like, this would be a good present to make her a cartoon of herself.
And how did you like the film?
She liked it. I think she was like quite surprised, because she forgot that I took the recording, and then, you know, you probably don't expect this most of the time to happen.
Absolutely. And I love especially the combination of sound and image, which is quite ironic. For example, the bath image, I love that. Like, do you often put these kinds of things in, or is that just something that comes to you in the process?
It's like I like to, put in jokes to keep myself entertained and then hopefully someone else. And so just I try to not have pressure to come up with things that are good, but usually if something is stupid or silly, then I like it and I want to put it in. So like a stupid idea to me is more inspiring, I guess, than like a profound one.
You said, because when we talked yesterday and you said that you were a bit surprised that this film got selected when it was actually quite a quick project, while others you've worked on were like obviously took more time. Do you like, what do you think is important in a film if it's not about how long it takes to produce, but like why do you think this one was selected?
I guess like there's something to be said for just immediacy and an expression of something that you don't overthink and can just like get it out, and then the imperfections are hopefully like appealing because they make it more human.
Absolutely, and it's just something I found it very unusual and something I hadn't seen. Also, the style of it, and just really inspiring to watch. Also, because it was so quick, all between these like really long, like cinematic films.
Beautiful, thoughtful films.
No, but like it was very refreshing to have something completely different in between. And I also love that about like short film programs that you get like really inspired within a couple of minutes because you have such different styles. How was that for you, like watching your film also in the way like it was grouped between others?
I thought the other films in the block with it were really strong, but it's like the curators of the festival do a really nice job kind of guiding your emotions so that you like get to laugh and then sort of like come down gently and then cry and like come back up gently without feeling like you're being ripped up and down. And so I thought it was very like thoughtfully put together, and I was just honored to be a part of it and in the company of such nice work.
Totally. Do you think a lot about like the pace of your movie or the like how fast everything changes, or is that something that happens because of the sound recording that you were using?
When you're editing the images and you already have the sound pre-recorded, it's really nice because the sound determines so many of these things for you, and you don't have to wonder like, is this too long, is this too short, because you have like a structure already to go on. And so that's a really nice part about if you start with music or if you start with an interview, like it's just much easier, I think. And also you know exactly how long the film will be, and so you know exactly sort of how long it will take to make, in a way that if you're just trying to tell a story, it can get really out of control. So yeah.
Absolutely. And you can also kind of play with this, right? You have the recording, but you can like create like an ironic effect with the images that you add. It's not just illustrating what is said, but it's like a joke between image and text, I felt.
Yes, I think that's like something that I've heard about like being an illustrator, is that you should try to bring more to your work than just creating a visual that like matches the text in a one-to-one kind of way. Like there should be a reason why there's an image and why it isn't just words by itself. And so I think that can be intimidating when you're like, what could I possibly bring to this? But I think in some moments it's like nice to give the audience sort of like a break to catch up by just giving them a one-to-one, and then the moments when you do deviate will sort of have more punch to them and people will be more ready to follow you there.
Absolutely. That's really cool that you connect that to illustration. You've been working as an illustrator? You have a training as an illustrator?
I have training as like an animator, but illustration is kind of, in my opinion, hand in hand with that, if you're doing like a drawn style of animation, because it's like very like connected as visual storytelling, I guess. I mean, like different animators, everybody works in their own way and has their kind of own logic to it, but I see it as very related.
And is it very different And do you think that people, like animators who maybe come from illustration, or you who also do illustration, look at it in a different way than those who come just from filmmaking or from live action film? Do you think that makes a difference?
Yes, I think definitely because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like the difference between animation and illustration is that one is time-based and the other is static. And so in that way, having a knowledge of filmmaking is really helpful, and like watching and being inspired by live action films as well gives you a lot of ideas about like how pacing and editing can be used to kind of like sculpt a story. And I guess in the nature of animation is that you kind of do all of your editing beforehand, because you really like just can't afford to make things that you don't use, because I mean, you'll end up throwing away a few things, but in general, it just takes so long to create anything that it's really best if you have your idea like pretty locked in beforehand. Whereas I guess in live action, the most time consuming part is like the editing, and it's like easy in a way to just shoot like tons and tons of footage, but then you have to like create it into a story. And so I'm grateful to have had experience with both mediums, and gotten to learn a lot from seeing that exchange. Yeah.
That's really true. I never thought about that you actually don't edit as much in animation. Maybe also because I haven't edited the animations like I've been working, like the projects that I've been working on. But yeah, that's very true. And I think that also makes it so difficult to do animation. I mean, one of the things I guess is difficult because you have to like know in advance all the things that you're going to do, all the different shots that you want, and maybe it doesn't work the way you wanted it. Have you ever experienced that you had to, like, that you felt, okay, the thing that I had in mind didn't turn out the way I wanted it to be?
Definitely. And I think that what helps with that a lot is that, you know, maybe your impulse is to do all of your drawing and as like one step, and then you move on to putting it into like a video timeline to see how it's flowing with the timing, and then maybe you think of sound as a whole extra step afterwards. But I've found that it's much easier to sort of have an idea of how the film is shaping out if you are constantly like putting it in the video timeline and always putting sound to it and experimenting with that, because then you're seeing it grow as a film, which is what it's going to be in the end, as opposed to like seeing drawings and then seeing something different, and like just seeing parts without the whole, I guess. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's really good also, like as a kind of control mechanism, because you see, okay, that doesn't work, maybe I'll have to do that again. Also, if you maybe do the editing afterwards and you have already like everything is gone basically that you were working with, that I think is problematic. So I think that's a really good advice. There's a filmmaker I know who's he's an animator, and I did a workshop with him. He's and he does everything like with film cameras, so like not digital. So he shoots all of his animations. I mean, the things that he does like privately, he shoots them and then like just sends the footage away to get it developed, and like 2 weeks after he gets everything, and then he edits everything. And I found that like so incredible, because I mean, it first means that he has to know what he's doing, because there's no way he can go back, and it's all in his head basically. I don't know, do you think that requires, is that anything that you'd like to try, or is that like something that doesn't make really sense, especially for us who have like all of the software and who can really work with the computer all the time?
I think that the idea of having to be forced to have that discipline is definitely helpful. However, I have no desire to kind of like return to that time, because first of all, it's like so expensive, and the process is like physically very like demanding to be in like a dark, hot room with like the film and all of the lights and shooting it. And so this was how animation was made until like very recently, just like last 20 years or so. And so now that the digital tools are so accessible, it's pretty amazing, because animation is an option for so many people where it wasn't before. And you can, I mean, another thing that's nice about animation is you can spend like lots of money making a film, and sometimes you need to, depending on your technique, but also you can make a film for almost nothing, and that's like thanks to the tools that we have available. And having more access just means that the medium is going to grow so much more, because there will be more voices able to be heard.
Absolutely, that's really true. So how do you like usually? How does your process work? Do you think about a story? Do you have an idea, an image in your mind, or do you start like experimenting, or how does it work for you?
So it depends, always a bit different. It's great to start out with a piece of sound if possible, because like I said before, that gives so much shape to the timing. And but sometimes if I don't have like a piece of sound that I'm inspired by at the moment, I will just think about like one shot that I really want to see, and then think, all right, what can I create around that shot to turn it into like a story or into something larger. And so I've had projects where like a lot of the time actually I don't know what the full thing will be. I just start with one shot and then kind of consider like, all right, this exists, what is the next step, or like what is the response, the reaction to what exists now for the next one, and kind of continuing to do that until eventually there are just these pieces, and then it's a matter of sort of like building bridges between them so that they have some sort of flow and some kind of logic or structure, which in animation is really open because people are quite accepting of like much more abstract things than you'd often think they would be, as long as they feel like they're being guided and cared for by some element of it, whether it's the sound or the color or reoccurring imagery. Like a story is only one form of structure, I guess. Yeah.
And also, like, I mean, the story of Catherine in Venice is like a micro story, yes. But it works so well because we kind of know this kind of storytelling. It's something that friends like just tell each other. So there's this part of like intimacy in the film where you feel, oh, this could be my friend telling me a story about her experience. But then also the images are like so like they're so bright and they're so different, and then you see them kind of colliding with the text, but you still feel kind of guided through the sound. So I think that's a really cool combination of the two. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I think I'll have to see it again because it was so quick, especially after these long films. I was like, oh my God, it's coming up. What? It's over? I was like, very quick. Please, can you show it again? I need to go back to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I really liked it.
Thank you. I'm really glad.
So maybe just a quick kind of look into the future. What are you working on right now, or what would you like to work on in the future?
So in the future, I have a sibling who is studying evolutionary biology, and so like very into science, and they have created these PowerPoint presentations for their classes about how like biological sex is not the same as gender, and trying to explain that from a scientist's perspective. And so I think that message is really important for people to understand, like not only socially but also scientifically, because often science is sort of used as an excuse for like homophobia or like transphobia, or like stereotypes about different types of people. And so I want to use one of those presentations as like a basis for animation, because right now they're just like PowerPoints, and I think that if they have some like visual engagement to them, it would speak to a broader audience and could help like me when I encounter people who don't understand these topics to like have something as a resource to show them, to get them to like expand their understanding. Yeah. So that's what I want to do next.
That's really cool. Also using animation for like educational purposes, I think is a great resource, because people are way more receptive to something if it's entertaining, if it's kind of engaging them in some way. And yeah, a PowerPoint slide might not be as engaging as, yeah. That's so cool. That's really cool. Do you like think that you'd like to do more of these kinds of things, of like with a kind of social, political purpose?
Yes, definitely. It's something that I've been trying to sort of steer my work towards, because what comes naturally is to do something very silly, very stupid, like just pure entertainment. But there are so many like topics that I feel like as an artist you have some opportunity to promote like something you care about, and so it's like nice to take advantage of that. But I'm trying to find my way to it in a form that's natural and doesn't feel like I'm forcing it to happen. So I'm like looking for ways in.
Well, that's so cool. Thank you so much, Natasha. That was really nice. I could talk on for ages. I'm like, this is the best. So yeah, I hope it was okay for you talking to me. I loved it.
Thank you for your questions.
Oh yeah, thank you for coming. And yeah, that was it.
Okay.